A lot has been happening in Israel with the hostage and ceasefire deal. Let's break it down. So a few days ago, 3 Israeli hostages, Damari, Romi Gonen, and Doron Steinbrecher, were finally freed after being kidnapped by Hamas and held hostage for over 15 months. These women were among over 200 people kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. Romi was kidnapped from the Nova party. Emily and Doron were taken from their beds in Kfar Aza. Their release is a part of the multi-stage deal brokered by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt to secure the return of the hostages and uphold a ceasefire. But it's a fragile deal that is far from perfect. Here's how it works. In the first phase of the deal, Hamas is supposed to release 33 of the 98 remaining hostages in increments stretching over 42 days. In return, Israel is set to release nearly 1,900 Palestinian prisoners, many of them terrorists with blood on their hands, in exchange for innocent civilians. Phase 1 began on Sunday with the release of the 3 hostages. The next release is scheduled for this Saturday, with 4 more hostages expected to be freed. Living hostages are prioritized for release first, and Hamas is required to share the names of hostages to be freed 24 hours before each release day. Delays have already occurred, with Hamas initially failing to provide the required names on time, causing the ceasefire to start later than planned. After Saturday, a smaller group of hostages are scheduled to be freed every 7 days. 3 hostages on day 14, 3 on day 21, 3 on day 28, and 3 more on day 35. The final week of this deal is expected to include a larger release of 14 hostages, which will, sadly, include bodies of Israelis murdered by Hamas. In addition to the hostage-for-prisoner exchange, the deal includes a pause in the fighting and even more humanitarian aid, which Israel will continue to send into Gaza, including hundreds of trucks with fuel, food, and medical supplies. Border crossings within the Gaza Strip have also been adjusted to allow some civilians to pass, but strict security measures are in place to prevent Hamas terrorists and weapons from crossing. As part of the agreement, Israeli forces have pulled back to the perimeter of Gaza. On hostage release days, Israel is also required to pause aerial surveillance over Gaza for 10 hours. And on day 16 of the first phase, negotiations are supposed to begin for the second phase of the deal, which will see the release of the remaining hostages and a possible end to the war. Many ask, is this a good deal? So no, this is not a good deal, because there's no good deal to be had with a terrorist organization that is committed to your destruction. A terrorist organization that has stolen innocent women and children from their bed and is now extorting Israel and the entire world for their return. This deal is far from the solution, but it's the deal that we have on the table right now, and anything and everything needs to be done in order to bring all of the hostages back home. Moving forward, however, the world needs to understand that as long as Hamas remains in power, not only is the Middle East not safe, the Palestinian people will not have a future. You see, many people forgot that Israel handed Gaza over to the Palestinians when it unilaterally withdrew in 2005, only to see Hamas brutally take control over Gaza. Nearly 20 years have passed. 20 years in which Gaza was free from Israel, yet oppressed by a radical extremist jihadi terror organization. 20 years in which, instead of focusing on building Palestine, Hamas has been focused on planning October 7th. Meticulously planning it, I must say. For any real progress, Hamas needs to be removed and Gaza needs to be demilitarized. So, is this a good deal? No, it's not. But this is the deal that we have, and we have to take it. And every hostage brought back home is a blessing. It's a reminder of what it is that we're doing here, what it is that we're fighting for the value of human life. And we all saw it when we saw moms hugging their daughters again after being in hell for over 15 months. A larger plan is required for the entire Middle East, in which radical jihadism is categorically rejected for Israelis, for Palestinians, and for the safety of the entire world. But until then, we must bring them all home now.